All right, welcome back to the channel. Now in this video, I'm going to be responding to this Coleman Hughes Sam Harris interview. Not the whole thing, just the points on anti-Semitism and the Iran war. But before we get into that, gotta do a little bit of shilling for people. I don't know if that's the correct term. That might be considered racist now. But I got Adam Green's The Jesus Deception and this pretty cool looking t-shirt. I like it. It's got shrooms on the bottom. I didn't say that. Anyway, I think I might have some disagreements with Adam Green, not specifically on the topic of the book, but in fact, I think that maybe I might be a third temple accelerationist. Because, it would be kind of funny if they actually rebuilt the third temple and then just to see the look on everyone's face when nothing actually happens. Like nothing happens. Then what would they do then? What would they actually do if they actually rebuilt the third temple and then nothing happens? It would be kind of like I think it would be pretty funny. Pretty funny. But yeah, check out No More News for some in-depth research on these topics. Okay, so gonna get into this response video. Now, they start off the video with just some real, basic bitch neocon preemptive war arguments, like, we had to, blow up Iran because they were 2 days away from getting a nuclear bomb, as they have been since, 1990. Yeah, okay, we get it. They were 2 days away. Any country that has nuclear power is 2 days away from making a nuclear bomb. That's just how it works. You have a nuclear reactor in your country creating nuclear energy. You have all the materials. It's just like someone coming to your house and being like, oh, you could make a bomb because you have matches and a pipe at your house. Where you're going to make a bomb? Who knows? But if you have matches and a pipe at your house and some gasoline, technically you could make a bomb. So technically everybody is 2 days away from making a bomb. That's how it works. All right. So after they make these arguments, I'm going to start to call these people feigning, they're feigning ignorance. That's what they're doing. They're going, I don't understand how anyone could not be an anti-Zionist and Israel has the right. Yeah, okay, we got it. But these arguments are kind of getting old. So let's check out what they have to say.
As an anti-black bigot who actually just has a disgust reaction when he or she thinks about or sees black people. So all that is context for the question: how do you distinguish anti-Zionism from anti-Semitism, and to what extent do you think there should be a big focus on fighting anti-Semitism, given that it is a real thing?
Now, as we've seen, the war with Iran is also hitting the financial sector. Tehran has declared it'll go after.
Well, I would admit that you can logically differentiate anti-Semitism from anti-Zionism. I think that those are distinct, at least in principle. But in practice, I think most people who are anti-Zionist are in fact anti-Semitic. And I think that the unique focus, the special focus on Israel as a country that has a problem in justifying its right to exist. The only way I can explain that is at some level anti-Semitism global.
Okay, so he's making the argument that if a country has to justify its right to exist, then that means that you're against that country. Okay. So as we can see here, Sam Harris endorsed Kamala Harris in the last election. You can see this article is written by Sam Harris. Sam Harris, vote Kamala Harris. Maybe they're related. I don't know. But this article's by Sam Harris. So Sam Harris personally endorsed Kamala Harris and her policies. I'm not paying to read this, but we can click over here and see Kamala Harris's policies for immigration, because we're talking about a country's right to exist, and if they have to justify to other people whether or not they have the right to exist as the current nation exists currently, right? And if you don't believe that, then you're anti that country, right? This is the argument that you're making, Sam Harris. You're making this argument. You're saying that if it can't only be for Israel. This is the problem. If you're going to make a universal claim or a moral claim, it has to be applicable to everybody. It can't just be applicable to Israel. Right? So if you're making the claim that if a country has to justify its own existence to people, and the people that are forcing them to justify their own existence are anti that country, then you're anti-American, because you support this deferred action for childhood arrivals thing, which is called DACA, or it's also called the Dreamers Program for short, right? So if we look at what it actually is, basically, it's a program that would allow children that have entered the country illegally to stay in the country for at least 2 years and be eligible for employment documentation, right? So Kamala Harris supports this policy fully. She voted for it and supported it her whole time being the vice president, and when she was in Congress, and also when she was in California. So by supporting this, you're basically saying that you don't believe in borders and that Americans don't have a justification for maintaining their country the way that it is. Right. And then he's going to go on to talk about the genocide stuff. And we can see here that in the United States, minority births now account for more than the majority of white births. So how it's like not even a minority. This is what I'm saying. Like, you can't just label non-white people a minority and then say that it's a majority. 54.4% of all births, surpassing white births, which make up 49.6%. And Hispanic women contributing notably to the increase in birth rates among non-white populations, which this DACA thing would specifically allow, a lot of Mexican immigrants and their children to stay in the United States and then become citizens after the fact. See, it says right here, the vast majority of dreamers are from Mexico, right? So now Sam Harris has to now justify how he's not anti-American and pro-white genocide when he personally supports the policies of Kamala Harris, right? So in Israel, we got to do everything that we can to make sure that Israel stays safe no matter what. But if he doesn't like the cut of Trump's jib, then we got to vote Kamala Harris and let her just let in as many Mexicans as possible to diminish the white population, right? It's ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous. Okay, you're a neuroscientist. You're not a politician. And look, like, I got all the links for my stuff that I'm talking about in the description. All he has is basically this biography saying that he is one of the greatest thinkers of our time, a philosopher, neuroscientist, and a host of a podcast. Great. So where's the facts? You guys are just talking out of the side of your mouths. All right. Okay. Let's keep going.
Speaking, I don't know how else to explain the focus on Israel at this point. I mean, there's something like 195 countries on Earth. I think about 2/3 of them were formed. Their boundaries were formed by map makers just drawing those boundaries on a map without much regard for the lives of the people living within those boundaries. Which is to say that there's just something like 2/3 of existing countries have a similar origin story to Israel's. Right? It's just there's a mess on the ground, and in the aftermath of wars, people just divided up the map.
Yeah, America did that too. It's called the Spanish-American War. And then they formed Texas, and then they divided it into America and Mexico, and then you want to vote for people that want to get rid of that to the detriment of American citizens that already live here. Now, keep that in mind, to the detriment of American citizens. Notice the title of this video says Anti-Semitism and the Future of Civilization. Why isn't it the future of America or the future of the United States? Right? Right? Like, I don't care if you're Jewish. I don't care who's Jewish. Like, the fact of the matter is, like, I'm more libertarian, but due to the fact that libertarians have to work with Republicans, and Republicans did a lot of stuff for libertarians, I think that it's fair that libertarians should be pro-closed borders, even though it's principally against one of the, like, founding principles of libertarianism. But sometimes you got to make a compromise. And to me personally, I think that America is a country and it does have the right to exist, and the citizens of the country have a right to determine who lives in the country and who doesn't. And the fact of the matter is that if you want to vote for someone who's going to diminish the political power and economic power of the people that already live here by allowing people to come across the border for employment and just to basically cause more economic strain on the system than already exists, you're anti-American. Right? I mean, it's pretty simple logic. But I mean, I'm not one of the greatest thinkers of our time, though. I'm sorry.
Only Israel is constantly put into question.
See, only Israel. Only Israel. Only Israel. Only Israel. What? Only Israel is put into question of whether or not they should be allowed to exist. Only Israel. You heard that. He said only Israel is put into question of whether or not they should be allowed to exist. Well, I mean, we can say Israel's a country, and then why don't you wait and allow it to be 75% Palestinian, and we'll still just call it Israel. We'll call it Israel. We won't change the name on the map, but you just import 75% Muslims into Israel. You want to do that? You want to do that, Sam Harris? Huh? No, you don't. Because only Israel is called into question for its if it can exist or not. Like, get the fuck out of here, bro. You're the greatest thinker of our time.
Right. And it has to justify its existence when its neighbors are actually trying to.
Its neighbors? You mean like Mexico?
Murder its inhabitants.
Bruh. White birth rates are now less than minority birth rates. They want to murder us. Bro, just stop it. Like, no one's falling for this anymore. You're just talking. Like, show the information. Show what you're talking about, because you can't. Because the fact of the matter is that you literally wrote articles for Kamala Harris saying open the borders up to minority children, specifically from Mexico, so they can come here and outpopulate the white population. But he'll say, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy theory when it's killing Americans. But when it's killing Israeli people, then it's dead serious, right? Dead, you got to do that like dead-eyed squint and like look real angry all the time, even though you supposedly discovered the secret of well-being, but you look like you're about to have a stroke like at any second now, just from even having to like take in the opinion of someone who might not think that we need to send all our money to Israel to protect Israel while America's border doesn't even work anymore. Like, seriously. I'm trying not to be sarcastic, but it's really hard. Okay, let's keep going.
Competence, right? It's like it's not a normal situation. I mean, they're threatened. They continually are attacked, and they win wars, and then the world demands that they give back the strategically valuable land they got after they won those wars.
What, you mean like the Spanish-American War? You mean like the Revolutionary War? But we got to give back the land to the Mexicans, though, right? Because we got to let as many Mexican children as possible into the United States, and then make them full citizens after they stay here for 2 years, and then give them employment rights, bro. Like you can see why people are not going for this anymore. They're not going for this anymore, right? It's like people see Iran. A lot of people were against it because of the women's rights stuff. That's why a lot of people are against Islam. Besides the fact that it's just incompatible with, American values. But it's been pretty much proven that, Iranian women are not wearing burqas all day, and they're pretty much doing the same thing as Western women. So the Muslim hate is like on the decline, and people are starting to notice things like this when you're saying that Israel is the only country that has to justify its existence as the way that it's existing now. Right? It's the only country.
Defensive wars, purely defensive wars. I don't know where else this has happened in human history. I mean,
It's happening right now in the United States, but you don't seem to care because you wanted to elect Kamala Harris.
it should strike us as astonishing that the UN and the Human Rights Commission have passed more resolutions against Israel than against all other countries combined, right? And those countries include countries that have perpetrated actual genocides.
Mhm.
I mean, we're talking about countries like Sudan and Syria and Yemen and Iran and North Korea. I mean, just like the worst actors on you add them all together, and they have not had enough.
When you say worst actors, it's kind of hard to take you seriously when I can see how biased you are towards Israel, and the fact that you believe that Israel is the only country in the world that has to justify its existence and its borders existing and it being able to keep out Muslim people that are its neighbors that are not compatible with their civilization. Only Israel has to do that, not America. America doesn't have to worry about that because we can just let in as many Mexican children as possible. And then when there's more Mexican children than American children, including white children, then you go, I don't understand what you're talking about. There's all different types of genocide. Just because you're not specifically going out and shooting people in the head or blowing them up, you're doing it the Democratic way. You're voting for Kamala Harris to decrease the border and make as many non-white children come into the country as possible so that they can demographically reduce the white population. Let's keep it real. Okay, let's keep going.
Opprobrium heaped on them to equal what Israel has attracted on the world stage, right? So how do you explain that? I don't have an explanation beyond some weird fixation on the country because of its character as the Jewish.
That's because you don't even think about America. You don't even think about America and Americans and the people that like basically saved Israel, which were like white Americans. Like Israel wouldn't exist if white Americans hadn't gone over to World War II and basically helped Britain and France against Germany. Like seriously. And now you don't care about them to the point where you can't even imagine why. You can't even imagine why people would be questioning Israel now. It's like it's so far beyond your big brain, greatest thinker of all time and philosopher that you can't even like. I'm not saying you have to agree with it, but you can't even imagine why people would disagree with your stance on Israel being the only country that needs defense in the world. Every other country, they're either evil or they're fine, right? Europe, let all the Muslims pour into there after Israel bombs them with the neocons. They don't have a problem with their country being under fire, being their country existence being questioned. America, of course not. Borders, we don't need those. But Israel, if someone even suggests for a second, a millisecond, then they're anti-Semitic. There's not really a way to parse out a difference between someone that is against the state of Israel and that just is a racist and hates all Jewish people just because the way they talk or whatever. Can't figure it out. But you're supposed to be like a political genius or whatever. You're not. I'm sorry, you're not. I can figure it out. I don't have access to like a bunch of other genius political people. You could bring on all the politicians and all the people on your show all day and talk to them and question them. And I can look this stuff up on Google and figure it out within 20 minutes while I'm drinking my coffee for breakfast while listening to your stupid podcast. And I could figure it out. But you can't figure it out and you're one of the greatest thinkers of all time? Bruh. Seriously.
Jewish state, right? And yes, you can be an anti-Zionist. You can be fundamentally critical of this whole project. You could think, the Jews don't need a state, don't deserve a state, don't require a state. They can just live wherever they live. Like the Roma do, or like there's some.
Or like black people, and we don't have a state. Bro, I don't see you advocating for black people to have a state. Yeah, exactly.
There'd be some way to do a tightrope walk through all that and still come out not.
See, like it's a tightrope walk. Like it's so hard to navigate between figuring out whether or not the state of Israel or Jewish people in general are kind of like anti-American because they prioritize Israel over America when it comes down to the wire of whether or not we had to do something that's beneficial for Israel or beneficial for America. Even a democratic, atheist, Jewish guy is still on the side of whatever's preferential for Israel, even at the expense of the United States. Right? Like he was talking about in the beginning of the interview, he has all this bad stuff to say about Trump, but now that he's bombing Iran, it's kind of cool. He's kind of cool now. He's kind of cool, even though he's doing it for the wrong reasons. He's cool though. Okay.
Not saying anything bad against the Jews as Jews, but practically speaking, most people who are really concerned about the existence of Israel, I think, are probably also anti-Semitic.
Mm.
So if you're concerned or not concerned, well, you're concerned about the existence of Mexican immigrants in the United States, so I can easily say that you're anti-American by that same logic.
I've been genuinely surprised by the degree to which anti-Semitic obsession has flowered on the far right. I genuinely wouldn't have predicted it 2 or 3 years ago. Um, it's and maybe it's a failure of me updating my model of right-wing psychology.
Notice how it's his model of right-wing psychology. Maybe you should just update your model of the actual politics and policies of people supporting Israel versus people that are America first and people that want borders and people that want America to be safe because we live in America and the Iran war was not benefiting most Americans unless they have huge stock buy-ins to like military companies and Palantir stocks and stuff like that. Most Americans are not benefiting from this in any way. It's not a psychological thing. It's just a basic, what am I getting at? I guess you could say that's psychology. If people are asking, what do I get out of doing something for you? I thought that was just called politics, compromise, whatever you want to call it. It's not a psychological breakdown of the right wing. Oh my God, I would have never imagined 2 years ago that all the people walking around saying America first are now mad when Israel takes priority over America and actually puts America in a detrimental position for Israel, for the benefit of Israel. Can't figure it out though. It's a weird psychology.
But it's like I was genuinely surprised, for instance, that when Charlie Kirk was killed, that very same day, you see viral tweets instantly blaming Israel that couldn't possibly have had evidence because it had just happened, right? From like total moron, like just people on the internet, right? And that,
but then
and
Candace
that would,
Owens, and
but then that would that would filter even to people who I had some degree of respect for, like Megyn Kelly would be just asking questions about the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and that almost
Yeah, you can ask questions. Do not just asking questions about Israel. That's bad. Asking questions about why we don't have enough Mexican immigrants in the United States, that's fine. You can write a whole article on that. All right.
uniquely, Ben Shapiro would be like the last major conservative broadcaster to just not entertain any of this.
Bro, and you still can't figure it out that the only person that's supporting it now is Ben Shapiro and Sam Harris, even though Sam Harris is an atheist Democrat and Ben Shapiro is a conservative, almost orthodox Republican. But you can't figure out why they're aligned on this one specific topic. I can't figure it out. It's too hard because I'm one of the greatest thinkers of our time.
BS, especially when it seemed obvious pretty immediately after that he was killed by someone who probably had left-wing views and hated him for what he perceived as like right-wing bigotry. Seems like a lot of the right is just driving right past very simple explanations for phenomena and going straight to anti-Semitism. Again, the Iran war is another example.
Now keep that in mind when he said that we're driving right past the obvious answer and going straight to it's the Jews.
President Trump has said he believes Iran tried to kill him. Now, put aside where the state of the evidence actually is on those claims right now, I think it's kind of murky. I wouldn't have trouble believing it, but I don't think it's like a rock solid capital F fact yet. But Trump has said he believes that. We know how famously vindictive he is, right? That itself would be a parsimonious explanation for his aggressive posture towards Iran, but people drive right past that on the freeway and go right to the stop where Bibi's
he's been
controlling him.
saying that we should do something.
Okay, here we go. So people drive right past the fake Trump assassinations, and then they go to the fact that Bibi Netanyahu is actually the person that caused America to attack Iran. Okay, now this is what I'm talking about, feigning ignorance. Like, you guys don't watch the news at all. Like, I just do it as a hobby on the side, and I already know why we attacked Iran. And here we go, straight from like Marco Rubio's mouth. Okay, so now you can't say that you don't know why we attacked.
First is, it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond against the United States. And in fact, it bared to be true, because in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act. Going back to the second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons.
So there you go. Israel was going to attack Iran and cause more casualties for American soldiers because they don't care about American soldiers. And it's proven right there by the fact that they would have done something that would have caused higher casualties for American soldiers. And so, therefore, we were forced by Israel to attack Iran in order to preserve the lives of our own soldiers. Now, Sam Harris is going to sound real confused and say, and pretend like he hasn't seen this. And Coleman Hughes, too. They're just driving right past the real explanation and going straight to Bibi Netanyahu did it, when Marco Rubio himself said Bibi Netanyahu did it. Like, what are you even talking about at this point? Like, what are you really even talking about at this point? You're just talking.
Against Iran since, I think, 1980. Right? I mean,
Right.
So he's an old guy, and he remembers 1979, right? He remembers Jimmy Carter pathetically, speaking from the Oval Office, helplessly talking about our hostage crisis day after day after day.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, nothing happened recently. Nothing as recent as like a month ago. No, it's Jimmy Carter's fault, bro. Jimmy Carter did it, right? Yeah, and we're the conspiracy theorists. You guys are coincidence theorists to the max. It's just a coincidence that Israel attacked Iran and then we had to attack Iran before Israel did because Israel would have gotten more of our troops killed. It was Jimmy Carter, bro. It was Jimmy Carter did it. Okay. So I'm a conspiracy theorist, but you're supposed to be the greatest thinker of our time, and you're blaming the recent Iran war on Jimmy Carter and the fact that Trump's old. Trump's old, and Jimmy Carter. Bruh, like, get serious. Like, seriously contend with some serious arguments. Stop doing this, like, BS, like, whatever you're doing, shilling for Israel, because it's not working. No one cares anymore. Like, no one cares. That's why you have to do this. That's why you have to keep coming out and keep acting like oh, anyone who questions Israel is a racist and they hate Jews and they want to do another Holocaust. When in fact, you support Kamala Harris and she doesn't care if there's a white Holocaust where white people's birth rates just drop precipitously in the country that their ancestors basically founded. So you can see I'm kind of annoyed because I don't even want to be here doing this. Like, seriously. It's not even my thing. But it's like, come on, bro. Like, you're like, vote Kamala Harris to open the borders. And then you're like, well, why is Israel the only country that has to justify its existence? And then if we were like, close the borders, bro. And you're like, oh, no, that's racist and sexist. And then you wonder why people are questioning Jewish people. Because it's like, you, Sam Harris, are an atheist Democrat, and Ben Shapiro is a conservative Orthodox Republican. But on this war with Iran, protecting Israel, you guys are just in lockstep to the point where you were hating on Trump for the whole 10 years and now Trump's cool. Right? But white Americans have to justify their existence by like doing hardcore political campaigns against Kamala Harris while you're telling people to vote for her just so they can not have this happen in their own country. But it's just lines on a map. And then they fought the Spanish-American War years ago and they kept winning these defensive wars to separate Mexico from the United States, and you don't care about that. But then everyone's supposed to care about Israel. And it does not happen anymore, man. We can see what happened. Israel was going to attack. They didn't care about the lives of American soldiers, and they forced us into the war just so we could save the lives of some of our own American soldiers. All right. I'm not going to watch the rest of this boring video. I already watched most of it. They talk about the Epstein files and stuff like that. But just notice the title of the video, though, right? The future of civilization, not the future of America, not the future of the USA, right? So basically, I think I've proven my point that Sam Harris is 100% anti-American by his own logic, by his own rationale and logic. He's an anti-American person who doesn't care about the future of the United States. So that's the video. Thanks for watching if you did. Have a good day and peace.